me 1 second, guys. I need a charger. Okay. Okay, what's going on? Good afternoon. Just got back from the gym, feeling pretty good. Feeling pretty good about the day, just overall. I feel like we had a really good day when it comes to futures trading. All right, and we've had a pretty good run since last Tuesday when we started streaming live together inside the Discord. We also were streaming on live on YouTube. Let's see here. Look who's in the background, guys. What do you want, Dime? All right, but we went on a run when it comes to just price action in general, right? We've had some ups, we've had some downs. We haven't had the cleanest, I would say sessions. Like we sometimes take a hit, but that's part of the game, okay? And I know that, so I'm grateful to be able to provide value in that sense, okay? Now, as you guys can see here really quick, before I go into the breakdown and start going over some of the positions from the Discord, you guys can see I have a friend back here that's going to want to wants to go on another walk. We just went on a walk, okay? So it's pretty crazy. She wants to go on another walk already. Either that or she might be hungry. So if she sits there for a little bit more than 5 minutes, guys, I am going to go feed her really quickly, which will only take me a few seconds. But let's look over the Discord tip from today. All right, don't switch here. All right, and then I want to be able to, let's close this down here. So when we go into the Discord and we look at I didn't drop a pre-market because we were actually on the call all together at the time. But I was able to grab some screenshots of some different areas that we ended up taking. We were talking about dollar index as well, right? Dollar index, oil, we were talking about QQQ on the stream. So quite a bit of information when it comes to what we were looking for. Now, just like I said, stay focused on what we're looking for today with NQ. I'm going to go over the positions we actually took. So when you're looking at the Discord for today, right, these are the positions that we actually took. Right, so these are some of the areas that I was personally looking for. I'll talk about this. This is what I'll be referencing if you guys want to look at this again later. My average risk on a trade is about 160, right? So when I say a 3R multiple or 5R multiple, I'm going off of around that number there, okay? And so to close out the day with about, I think it was close to 700, that puts us at about a 4R multiple, right? 160 times 4. Just to be sure, 160 times 4. Okay, 640. So it was like a little bit over a 4R because we were close to 700. Now, what I'm going to really focus on this is the scratch. Then I'm going to focus on the positions that we took that ended up playing out pretty well and how we managed them, okay? Now, we talked about these like play-by-play when it comes to the actual group. Right, so when you go to live trading here, and then we have the open chat here, right, there is, let's see here, did we put that trade in there today? I'm not too for sure how many screenshots we actually took. Let me check my actual personal screenshots here really quick as well, because most of our stuff was in the live trading chat today. Okay. And today was 331. $26. Okay. And so I'll need that one. I'll need that example. I'll need that one. That one. Let me see here. Okay, so I won't need that one. I'm just kind of looking at some of these screenshots that we have from today. What time is that? 9:05. So I'll keep this window up over here so I can remember which ones are which. But top-down analysis, what we talked about on the session is if we continue to see bullish price out of dollar index, then we wanted to see, if we've seen bullish price out of dollar index, we wanted to see downside on NQ. And if we've seen dollar index, right, do what it did today, which was this was the Tuesday open, made lower low, lower high, and then extends lower through that previous day low, that showed a lot of weakness, and that's when we were looking for more of buy positions when it comes to NQ, okay? And so I'm going to pull this up just so I have it as well really quick. Where is it out here? It's in the Discord and live trading chat. And we'll refer back to this, okay? I'm going to use this screenshot just really quickly so I can put it on another window. All right, but these are the trades that we're referencing today, okay? So dollar index, like I said, seeing that downside move, we ended up wanting to see more upside on our futures. Now, when you're looking at the overall, right, weeklies, I talked about the levels to look for when it comes to NQ, ES, and YM, right? Going with YM first, we consider this level here as a massive level of demand, right? So for me, when I'm looking for massive levels of demand, I'm also looking for short covering inside of that area. So everything's fractal when it comes to trading. Essentially what I'm saying here and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to, everything that I see on a higher time frame, I want to see at a lower time frame, okay? And so give me 1 second because it's not showing that I'm streaming live on... It's not showing that I'm streaming live right now. Huh. It shows me live over here. So I've got the chat over here, but I can't see. Let me see really quick. That's weird. Okay, now I can see it. Let's see here. Let me type this in, see if this comes up. It comes up on here. So it's showing that I'm like, okay, cool. Okay, I was just trying to make sure that we weren't like sitting here going over nothing, okay? So looking at that level, we were looking for this on weekly, right? Demand candle, short covering. Now, same thing, key level for ES was 6,400 whole level, right? Inside the weekly gap. And then the same thing we were looking for as the expansion candle here on NQ, which was that 23,500 level, okay? Now, when you go down to daily, yesterday we did come off of a bullish day. It was very small here on ES. And then they actually had a bearish day on NQ if you're looking at this here, right? So very, very manipulative on what they're doing. And then, like I said, trading really comes down to buying low and selling high. So essentially what people are doing are getting trapped on like smaller time frames is they're selling positions at the lows, right? They're not understanding that shorts are going to need to cover in order for functionality to play out. And then what I like to use for directional play is going to be the H4. So talking about the H4 from yesterday, We'll dive a little bit more into the price when it comes to NQ, and I'll show exactly what I was looking for inside that 4-hour 23,250s and that overnight internal liquidity. Now, as you can see, if you look at ES at the same time, right, ES has that same internal liquidity at the same time, and so does YM. Now, Tay, right, my good business partner, took a really good trade down to the current low of day that we had on YM, and then price, as soon as he took profit, it rockets, right? So that's a good sign, though, because you want to be in flow with that type of situation. Like, you don't want to be in a situation where you don't take profit and it just eats up all your profits, okay? So I don't know what that thing is going on. But now when we look at the 1 hour, and this is just comparative strength of all of them, I'm going to move this box here for a second. When you're looking at this from this perspective here, now this is what I was saying. They all had a London low, right? Like, this was a nice London low on ES, and then they had a really good 1, 2, 3 touches and the London lows here. So 23,250 essentially became support pre-New York, right? So essentially pre-New York, all we could see was, I was like, what's going on? Pre-New York, all we could see was this, right? Price was just kind of trapped in between 23,400 and 23,250s, right? And I didn't want to play until it broke out of one of those areas up in here in the supply, or maybe if it dipped a little bit lower. So that's all we could see before the open, okay? And so now what you're looking at is at New York Open, I felt like I had missed the move, right? Like, I felt like I was like, okay, I think I missed the buy. You know, I didn't really want to buy that high when price was already showing from 7 to 8 that it was showing strength here. So when we dive into the lower time frames, I'll show more, but from the higher time frame perspective and context, right, I wanted to see those 4 hours like we showed here reach up. So I wanted to see YM reach up into here, right? So like somewhere into this bigger candle here like this, I wanted to see it reach into there. And then ES, I wanted to see it come into the 4 hour supply, which was here, right? Coming right into this candle, which we did. We went way past the 4 hour gap at the 65.25 quarter. So to me, right, when I look at NQ, right, and I'm looking at just this perspective of just NQ 4 hour, after a massive push like that today, I couldn't see why we wouldn't go for 24,600 potential here. If we respect 24,000, the inefficiency here, right, fair value gap, you know, whatever you want to call it here, if we respect that level right here, then we could roll over back for what would be now the previous day low once the new day starts, okay? And so that's where my mind is when it comes to what we were wanting to see. Now, the positions that we took were short positions, right? Because I had missed the buy that I wanted at New York, and it just didn't present the exact way that I wanted it to, okay? So looking at these from a 15-minute perspective, right, I want to talk about mainly, the main thing I want to talk about is obviously is going to be our entry, but our exit today, and understanding there's a mantra that I use that really helps when it comes to trading, okay? Hold on down, girl. So looking at this, when you look at the New York Open, we were looking for positions. I'll go 15 and 5 and 1 here really quick. 15 and 5, and then this would be the 1 minute. Okay, I'll let this load here really quick. Now, in that first, let's go to 1 minute so we can look right at the opening range, because most of the time in what we trade is going to be always opening range trades. Now, you don't want to get caught up right in the beginning, because sometimes that's where the manipulation happens. But one thing I will say about today's is when you go back and you look at like the replay mode here, and you look at the very first 5 minute candle, it gives you what you need to see. Now, me personally, like, I thought this was like a flash to just take new highs on day, right? That first 5 minute candle, 8:30 to 8:35, and I thought that they would eventually break it down to then reach for that overnight liquidity, right? But structure will tell you a lot, okay? And if you have higher time frame areas like we did, right, when you're looking at the H1, we were looking for 23,500 and possible previous day high to deliver, then you can actually probably fit a buy-in in that New York Open somewhere on this 15.5 to then continue up. Because when you look at a smaller time frame, right, everything did check out the way we want. The first minute, 8:30 to 8:31, right, sign of strength. Then you get the pullback into the area. Now, when you're getting that pullback into the area, how I'm framing this on a small time frame is, let's say this, and I'll kind of show this for an example. If I was to plot a 1 minute entry here, let's say you took buy positions at the 23,390s, okay? Oh, sleepy girl. When I plot that position, do you guys see where it showed up over here on the 5 minute? Now this is the first 5 minute candle. If I wanted to get the best position I could at that opening range, I want to see a scenario where price runs off, right? 831, 832, and then 832 to 833 comes back into the area where I can end up fitting an order like this. Now today, I think the reason why I hesitated was just because I didn't want to play the opening range trade and then it not play out, and then we experience a loss fairly quickly, okay? And that was okay, you know, it's because like usually the first 30 minutes, right? The first 15 minutes to 30 minutes is usually the false move, all right, of the opening range. But let's just say that you looked for buys in this position. We're looking for a 1 to 3, 1 to 5, right? Obviously would have delivered, okay? Like if you took it, got it in that 5 minute location, right? Price obviously delivers up and extends through that 5 minute high that they created, right? So when you're looking left, 23,500 just happens to be, right, when you're looking at a 1 hour, exactly where yesterday's New York open was, right where the candle dropped, right? So that was a perfect sign to see us extend and look left and get back to what I talked about in last night's review. Now, I didn't know it was going to happen that fast overnight, but what I talked about in last night's review was they were going to want these wicks from previous day, right, from that 10:30, 11 a.m. time. They were going to want, because of how they filled that inefficiency and then they just fall over, I knew that they were going to want those wicks at some point, and then eventually, obviously, the previous day high, right? Because this is where people put their stop losses, okay? And so, back to the small time frame, okay? So there's definitely, like I said, opportunity where we could have probably found, like I said, 1 to 3, 1 to 5, right on that opening range, and probably scaled that up to the 600 level, that 580 level, okay? If you scaled it up with no 5 minute sign of weakness, like all the way, you just kept scaling with 5 minute, you're looking at least probably 23,550s for about a 1 to 8. If you cut it in half, about a 4R trade. All right, that's a beautiful setup. So, not saying that there wasn't setups. Okay. Now, when we go back and we look, and I'm gonna do this just really quick. When I look at the first setup that I took, and I'm just referring back to that picture, and you guys can go back and look at it if you like. The first trade that we took inside the Discord was a scratch, which is fine, and that trade was at 840. Okay. So, essentially, let's go look at this and plot it, okay? 840 would have been somewhere in here. Let's see. So this would have been 841 to 8. So this is 840 to 841, and then 841 to 842. So this candle right here. Now, we went short. Now, the reason why I went short in this situation was because we had already made a new high on day, right, with that 5 minute candle, and I was anticipating, right, that this 5 minute candle was going to break down back into 23,250s, okay? Now the exact time that I took the trade was 840, and the price level, entry time, okay, and then price level was 435. Let's see here. Okay, what time is this? 40. This is the right candle right here. What time is it? It says 840. 840 was the entry and the exit. Okay, I was like, what the heck? Okay, 840, and then we have a price level of, and I think the one of the reasons why I lost this one was the fill. The fill was terrible. Let's see here. I'm gonna say this candle here. So let's see what it would have looked like. Okay, go back on replay mode, and then this was the 40 candle. Let's see here. This is 39, so the next candle is 40. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, yeah, so basically what I was doing was I was anticipating playing this area right here, this 23,440, and then I was looking to have my risk on the highs, right? So typical trade for me, right? Entry, right? Usually 20 handle risk, right? So that was essentially right on that 5 minute, 1 minute high. Scratch. It is what it is, okay? That was the first trade, 160 loss, part of the game, right? Now, fast forward to, we took our next trade, right, which was at I believe 901. So we'll look at that price as well. And all the positions that I ended up taking were short today. Now, the reason being, right, this is 9 o'clock right here. If you notice something about the price, and if you look left, right, and you actually go back and like really study this price, this high, right, you can actually just click on the candle like this, and it'll give you the open, high, low, close, or, right, you can go up here and look up open, high, low, and close. Right, so for this example, I'm just going to click on this candle because I want to know the wick high of this candle, okay? The high on that candle, as you guys can see, is 23,580, okay? Now the high on this candle right here, right, because this is the candle that we were looking forward to see if it was going to deliver through the liquidity. The high on that candle is 23,581. So it literally top ticked by 1 point. Okay. So when it top ticked by 1 point, 9 o'clock, 9:01 was my second entry, right? So 9:01 was my second entry, and we'll go to the 1 minute and look at that. All right, so we top ticked the area. This would have been 9 a.m. right here. 9:01 was the entry, and then we had the location of 9:01. This is 9:01. So 9:01, and then that entry. And you guys can refer back to that picture if you just either in the Discord or from the beginning of the video. It's recorded. Okay. Let's see here. Let's see here. So we got in at 9:01. Entry was 559, I believe. Let's see. So 9:01, and then entry is 559. Okay, so like right in here of this candle. So 559, a little lower. 559. Okay, and then it would have been 9:01, so it would have been like in this candle. So essentially, right, what I was doing. This is the setup for me. I love this type of setup. We were able to produce about 1.5 R out of this trade, and then the rest came back for break even. Okay. Now, when you look at this trade, it fits all the criteria that I like, right? 5 minute location, right? There was a top tick. There was a draw on liquidity, right? Of those 580s. Market loves 20 levels, loves 80 levels, right? I could frame up a 5 minute location. So I could frame up a 5 minute last up candle, and I had a favorable risk, right? And I'm looking at just this area at this point right now, okay? So we're just looking at, this is all we could see at that point when we took this trade, okay? And so when you're looking at it from this perspective, I was looking for that 5 minute to come down into the 23,450s and possibly come below a typical target for us, which is New York low, 23,380s, 375 level. And then eventually could we get below the internal London low, right? That was the goal. Now, when you look at this trade, we were able to deliver from the beginning. If you look at it and you study, like I said, that price, we were able to deliver our 1 to 3. It literally came in, like when I took this trade, let me make sure it needs to be in alignment with the price that we got in. So the price level that we got in was the 559s. All right, so 559, and then you want to make sure it's at 1 to 3. And as you can see, right, we entered here 9:01, price delivered our 1 to 3. The remainder of our order went break even, so we had nothing at risk, right? We had 4 contracts on the trade. When price came here, we ended up exiting 2 of the contracts and went break even on the remaining 2. Now, as you can see here, price comes up. Our break even was at the 559s, comes back up in just, what is it, about 15 minutes, comes back up and hits us break even. But at this point, we had scratched 1, right, for 160, and now we were up to 250. Okay, so like looking at this is a good example. Okay, first trade was a scratch. I showed that and explained it a little early. Fine, right? Now this trade, right, taken at 9:01 at 559, this one ended up closing for 250, right? And then the other one hit break even, like I'm saying. Okay, so I just kind of wanted to show that so you guys have an understanding like what I'm going over here. So that was the end of that trade, hit break even, and then on this is all on stream, guys. This is all with the Discord, with the family. They were able to take these trades as well. They experienced a scratch. If they follow the trades like I do, they experience a scratch just as well. Now, when you look at this, okay, when you look at this now, they come up, they hit the level. Most people think, oh shit, well I was wrong, and they think they should just start buying this. No, understand liquidity grabs and where you're at on the higher time frame and timing, right? Now, at the this was the 9:30 to 9:35 candle. What you end up seeing was a 5 minute wick just kind of reach above, and 5 minute wicks are going to be 1 minute mitigation, so they're usually going to be FU formations on a 1 minute. So they run up very quickly, draw on that liquidity, right? Close bearish, and then this next candle opens, right? 9:35 to 40, and we were anticipating that sell down. The reason why I really liked the sell down and what made me hesitate was because how they drew on the liquidity. I said, okay, they drew on the liquidity. Can we find our way down on 15.5 back to at least New York open or New York low, right? Because if they're going to respect New York open, then they're going to rally the price, okay? And so next thing you know, right, they come in, they route, this is that FU formation, and then where I took the trade was let's go ahead and just plot that, and then I'll kind of explain where I think I hesitated slightly, but at the same time, I liked the R multiple that I had lined up. I had good targets, and I felt very in flow with what was going on, okay? Let's look at this. So that entry was, okay, sorry, just looking at this price here. Entry time, we talked about that. 942s, 942s, 513s. Okay, so 942s. All right, so this was right here, 942s. And then it was at 5, what is it? 5, our entry price is 513. So this is our candle, 542 and 13s. Okay, so we literally, the open of this 1 minute candle, literally we started to sell that. Now, this is considered essentially kind of late for me, but when you look back at like a 15.5, this was almost like a for sure, like they drew on the liquidity. They had the demand candle that was sitting in the high end of the range. Noobs are only going to buy a position like this when price is already pushed off the lows, right? And then we were looking for how the 15, top ticked, and then we top ticked the high of day, and that rejection of, 23,580, not even getting close to the 600s showed me that we could roll back over into the initial bounce back into that demand 23,400. So the trade that we ended up taking was right here, right? We were looking for 1 to 3, 1 to 5 R multiple, right? Literally took it from right in here, right? And then we were looking for that 1 to 3. Now, as you can see on this photo, this is the exact trade that we're talking about, okay? Let me make sure this is live here. I just want to make sure you guys can see the drawing that I'm showing right now really quick. Sometimes it doesn't. Okay, it is showing. Cool. Okay, so now when you look at this photo, right, this is the trade that we're looking at, these last 2 entries here, okay? So we entered, right, 4 contracts at that price level like I talked about, right? 513s, that's what I have marked up here. And then we had a 20 handle risk. Now, as you see here, 241 was secured, right? Look at the timing, duration, 6 minutes. 1 to 3 is usually delivered for us 5 and 6 minutes. So if you're on stream with me, you could use your max volume and just shoot for 1 to 3s and hop off the session. That could be a pretty good day for you, okay? You don't have to always shoot for the 1 to 5, or you don't have to, when it gets to 1 to 3, you cut half your volume and then wait for the 100 points to TP. You don't have to do that, okay? Or liquidity targets, etc. So now you see this is the area. Now the timing of when this partial was delivered, and I had it preset, okay? The timing of this exit time, let's see here, was 513s, exit price 453s. The time was 9:49. Okay, so if you look at the candle, right, that I'm talking about right here, 9:49 would have been this candle, right? As soon as price got to our 1 to 3, we ended up partialing that move. Now, this is what the whole part of the call. Okay, once we were looking for that 1 to 3 to deliver, we were looking for the 1 to 5 to deliver. And as you can see when I'm showing that, what that looks like on a 5 minute. Right, like we were looking for price to go below to fill this little inefficiency that was here. It was kind of hard to see, right? And then possibly go under New York low. Now, there's a mantra that I live by, and you guys can you guys can check this out, right? Protect or pay yourself at point of interest. Okay? Protect or pay yourself at point of interest. And that's where I think it really helped people today, was to get out of that move, was them having that understanding. Okay? And so we already secured that 1.5, right? R. Then we're looking for the 5R, and price starts to go down to New York Open. Then as we started to do that, I started to say on the stream, go ahead and mark out your 1 to 5. And if you don't like the rejection or the bounce here, trail your remaining risk, so your remaining 2 contracts down to the 100-point move, right? That way you still secure 2.5R. Why is it 2.5R? Because you only have half your volume on. If you had full volume, this would be a 5R trade, or possibly if you got to New York Open, a little bit over 6.5R, right? But since you're psychologically cutting at that 1.3 zone, which is fine to secure the bag and to see if it's going to go in your favor, then you're looking at that trade, right, for that 1 to 5. If it goes in your favor a little bit more, taps New York, and then comes back and takes you out, then you're fine, right? Because then you're essentially still grabbing your 1.5 plus your 2.5, which would make over 3R, right? And that's what, to be profitable, you want to consistently be taking 3 times more than what you're losing every setup that you're taking, if that makes sense, okay? And so the timing on that, I just want to check that because I didn't really see the timing. on that actual trade. So let me see that really quick. And then the exit time on that trade was 10 a.m., right? So 10 a.m. would have been here, 9:57, 9:58, 59, 10 a.m., okay? So like I mean, it's literally walk it like you talk it, right? 10 a.m. candle, had trailed the risk down to the 1 to 5R area. And then my exit price was inside the 423s, okay? So like my exit ended up being right here, a little bit higher than what I wanted. So it ended up being like I think a 1 to 4 by just even that little much. But as you guys can see, that's how we managed the trade. That's how we were able to understand, because we played this so much with point of interest that we know we must protect ourselves or pay ourselves in that type of environment, right? Because everybody plays what they can see or what they think they know, and the market likes to move an algorithmic price and destroy people like that, okay? So that was the trades that we took today. I'm not going to really go over too much of what we're expecting right now, other than just more upside. I have a target when it comes to NQ and this 24,600 level. But I feel like we did really well today, even though we weren't on the right side, like the big blast, the buys up. Everything played out to what we had anticipated and what we wanted to see. So like overall, them coming up and filling the inefficiency. So I'm just going to look up just NQ here really quick. Them coming up and just filling that inefficiency coming through the supply, that's showing me that we are just extremely bullish. Okay, like it's just showing that we're extremely bullish. Now, as we come into the overnight, we go into tomorrow, we'll see how, right? Because I'm going to go move this now that we've done the call. Move this to the end of the day, right? And then I start to evaluate the supply demand zones that we're in, right? So like, can we break candles outside of this 4-hour supply, or will we start to break down back into the range from the previous day? Okay, so I feel like we did pretty good, going over what we've seen, on our moves that we took today. We played really well with our bias, right? With our overall market direction. We're seeing weakness on dollar, which is pushing up everything XXX I was actually going over a couple, I haven't traded Forex in a long time, but a good friend of mine, we were looking up some charts on just to kind of see the GU, right? Correlations with the dollar index and stuff like that. So definitely have oil on your mind too. I mark up oil the exact same way, and I look at a lot more like higher time frames to see where liquidity is going to be resting, because with this, when this makes its clear directions, we also can get a gauge on what's going to happen on NQ. Okay, so that's probably it for me today. Like I said, we went over the sell side moves, we went over protect or pay yourself at point of interest. Still was able to scale out, like I said, over 4R multiple on the day with minimized risk. So I feel good, right? It's only Tuesday. We got a new month starting, new quarter starting tomorrow. So definitely trade safe, protect yourself, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the next call. I will do my best to do trade reviews every day like this, where people can come on, ask questions, etc. And then when it comes to live trading, it'll be uploads, right? Because I want to respect the people inside the Discord that are actually, in the war room with me live, right? Like really putting money up behind what they say. So I want to really respect those individuals. But we will go live most likely like 2 times a week, where it does lag on YouTube by like 11 to 12 seconds, maybe a little bit more sometimes, depending on your internet, I believe. But if you want real-time data, obviously you just join the premium group inside the Discord, and then that way you'll have real-time like execution, which I think is very helpful, okay? But like I said, Mondays, Fridays are the days that I'm looking to stream alongside the Discord on YouTube, right? Like actual live New York trading, which I don't see very many people actually taking live trades during the New York session that they like walk people through. So cool. I've got a couple notes to take for tonight. I'm gonna get some rest. Tomorrow's looking good. The rest of the week's looking good. Just get some base hits, and don't just go for home runs, right? Get those base hits. They add up. Put 3 people on base, then hit your home run, and then you'll really feel good. Okay. But appreciate you guys. Talk to you guys a little bit later. Have a good rest of your night.